Right, quick review of this. This is my Walther LGV Master Pro. It's the 2018 version with the adjustable butt pad. So it's the latest version of this that's available in the UK. Conventional brake barrel spring pistol rifle. And it is a little corker. At first glance it just looks like any one of hundreds of brake barrel springers with a beach stock. You know, it could be anything: Gamos, Hatsans, Winchester, Remington, Viraux, BSAs, any of them really. There's hundreds of them and they all look very similar, and you really do have to get a bit closer looking at this rifle to see where its qualities really do shine through, because this is a little bit special in the brake barrel springer world. Right, so we'll start off with the stock, beach stock. Fairly plain woodwork. For a beach stock, the graining's not bad really. You know, there's some bits where the graining shows through quite nicely. It's got a nice high cheek piece, raised on the sides. Exactly the same on the other side, so it's an ambidextrous stock. Height adjustable rubber shoulder pad. Checkering on the pistol grip. And I have to say, this is probably the best laser cut checkering I have ever seen. It feels really rough. It feels more like the old-fashioned hand cut checkering. A lot of this laser cut checkering you see in these rifles now, it looks nice, but really its functionality is fairly limited because it generally is quite smooth. And some of them are so bad that they look nice, but they feel like the old press checkering that was on the old BSA Air Sporter and Mercury S's back in the 80s. Where really the checkering was more for cosmetics than anything else. It did almost nothing. But this is really grippy. It's really, well, you can hear that. It's proper rough. It gives a really good grip. It's excellent. They're definitely by far and away the best laser cut checkering that I've ever seen. It really is like hand cut. Very nice. Little Walther there. No checkering on the front of the stock, but it is fluted, and it's got sort of fattens out towards the trigger, slims down towards the front. Gives a really nice surface for gripping. Slight schnabel forend, only slight. Cocking arms articulated, so it's not got an especially long slot in the bottom, so it keeps the woodwork nice and stiff. Bluing on the rifle is superb. Really is. The polishing and the bluing is really, really good. Probably up there with the Air Arms Pro Sport that I've got as regards for the quality of the finish of the metalwork. It's top. This little Walther LGV is picked out laser cut, well, laser etched by the looks of it on there. Really nice. And the only other writing on the rifle is the Carl Walther made in Germany and the caliber on the side here, breech block. There's none of those hideous warning impress stuff that you get on the new Viraux that I think spoil what is otherwise a lovely looking range of rifles, because the Viraux now all have in here like an impressed warning labels that go on forever and a day, and they look a bloody mess. So there's nothing on this apart from that Walther LGV that's laser etched on there, which looks very nice, and the little bit on the side of the breech block. Other than that, no writing on it at all. It's got a 15-inch barrel, Lothar Walther obviously. That's not a silencer, it is actually a muzzle weight, but it is, if I can undo it, threaded on the end to take a silencer. But to be honest, the action on shooting of this gun, even though it has got an unshrouded barrel, it's so quiet. It really is. And that basically is what you're paying for with this rifle. It's a fairly, it's not a bland looking rifle, but it's a fairly average looking rifle. You know, but it's extraordinarily well made, and that's what I was saying. It's when you know, if you put it in a rack and you were stood in a gun room and saw it at the rack at the back of the shop, probably wouldn't stand out so much. As soon as you pick it up though and have a closer look at it, the quality of engineering really does shine through. The wood to metal fit is sublime, no gaps, nothing. The metalwork finish is gorgeous. The bluing's deep, even, it's lovely. Polishing of the metalwork before it's been blued, immaculate. The stock, really nicely finished, no imperfections. Everything, all the fitting, you know, everything's really nicely done. Checkering, best I've ever seen. It's got a brilliant safety catch as well, while we're on the really good stuff with this rifle. It's got safety catch like on a shotgun. So, push it up to fire, safe to back. And you can reset it as well, which is dead handy. So, and it's very quiet. You can hardly hear that at all. Really good safety catch. It's in a lovely spot, so you can literally wait till the last minute before you push it off and then take your shot. And then if you don't want to take your shot, just reset it. It's probably one of the most intuitive and best safety catches on an air rifle I've ever seen. It's really good. Really well thought out. They've done their own work there. That is a good thing. Trigger guard, machine metal again, very nice. When you cock this rifle, it is so quiet, it's unbelievable. There's no spring noise, no lever grating noises, nothing. Everything's got nylon bearings inside. All the load bearing or moving surfaces have got nylon bearings to keep everything really quiet, and it is a sublimely quiet gun. It's got a free floating piston that enables it to rotate. It runs on synthetic bearings again, so it's really quiet. There's no spring resonance at all on the shot. Recoil's fairly minimal as well. It's an odd springer to shoot. If, like me, you grew up in the 80s, I grew up with all the classic 80s air guns, 35 Exports, Fine Whip House Sports, original 45, original 50, BSA Meteor, Mercury S, Air Sport S, all those guns that I owned. All lovely guns, but they all had that typical Springer twang and vibration after the shot and everything. And a lot of them, I made a lot of noise when you were cocking them as well as you were compressing the spring. This, nothing. Nothing at all. When you're cocking the spring, there's nothing. There's a really solid sounding clunk when the spring's cocked, and that's it. When the trigger engages, that's it. That's all you get, like and that's it. And when you shoot it, you get what I suppose it's like a thud. It's just like, that's it. It's just a thud. No resonance at all. None. Barrel is held in place with, anyone familiar with the old Anschuts from the 80s again, the old Anschuts 335 will probably recognise this sort of latch at the front. You basically just lift it up and it opens the barrel up. And then to close it, just close it like that. And it's really solid, really solid. The engineering is really good, it's really solid. Gives a lovely, firm and repeatable marriage of the breech block and the cylinder, which obviously aids accuracy no end. On the top, normal dovetails. There's 3 indents in the top for arrestor pins on your mounts to stop the scope sliding backwards and forwards. And all in all, probably the smoothest, quietest firing spring break barrel air rifle I've ever shot. Accuracy is incredible. It's on a par with the PCP, even in my hands. I've only had this, I picked it up, I've had it 3 days now, and already I've polished off, well, I've had 3 rabbits, so I've had 7 rabbits in the bag already on 3 hunts. Hasn't missed a beat. I set the sights up at 35 yards, and it was getting groupings well under a 2p piece, nearer to a 5p piece, and that's with me shooting this gun. And if I can get groupings of about a 5p piece, I'm well happy, because that's plenty good enough for headshots on rabbits at 35 yards, and it's proved itself superb. It's really, really good. It's a little bit heavy. It is a little bit heavy, which is why I've fitted it with a fairly basic Hawk scope to keep the weight down. But other than that, it hasn't missed a beat. The only thing that I would say that is less than perfect on it is the trigger. Now, there's nothing, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the trigger. You know, you've got a fair bit of play, should we say, in the trigger. You know, there's a fair bit of play in that trigger, and it's got a long first stage. I've tried to adjust it down, and I've got it down to an acceptable level. It breaks nicely. It does. It breaks really nicely. It breaks consistently and fairly lightly, which is good. And from what I can tell, I think that this is plastic again. It's hard to tell, but they did equip the earlier versions of this. The very first ones had a plastic trigger. Then they switched over to a metal trigger. And from what I can see, they seem to have gone back to some plastic triggers. On the continent, they're all plastic, and I think the American ones are all plastic as well. So the trigger's a bit of an oddball, really, because for such a beautifully made, beautifully engineered rifle, and it's just, if you pick one up and look at one, cock it, fire it, it's just everything about it's so solid, beautifully, finely engineered and finished. And then they put a plastic trigger with quite a long, creepy first stage. You know, it functions well enough, but it feels like the trigger's come off. I mean, this is the top of the range Springer, the Pro Sport Master. You know, this Pro Sport, the LGV Master Pro. It's the top of the range. It's the top of the tree in their Springer guns. It's the all singing, all dancing thing, and yet the trigger feels like it's come off a rifle in their range that's maybe 2 levels below this gun. And I don't know why, because everything else is made sublimely. The engineering's incredible, and then just, you know, a plastic trigger. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a tough, hard plastic trigger that'll probably last forever, but it just doesn't feel right on a gun of this quality and this engineering excellence. Now, you can buy, and this is ridiculous, you can buy a different trigger as an accessory, which is an all metal adjustable trigger again, which is adjustable also for the weight of the first stage. Now, why the top of the range Springer rifle doesn't already come with that trigger, I do not understand. It doesn't make sense to me to have a rifle that's supposed to be your flagship model and then you offer a better trigger as an optional accessory. Surely, if it's your flagship gun, it should have the best trigger that you make on board. It's a bit baffling. It really is. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why they've done it. It really is bizarre. You can also get a nice trigger from, I think Rowan Engineering make a really, really nice one. It's like a post one with an adjustable shoe, which is probably what I will fit to this rifle because it deserves it. It really does. You know, it's the sort of gun where spending an extra 50 quid or whatever it is for a trigger that's as well made as the rest of the rifle, it's a worthwhile investment, because this gun's going to last you, well, it'll outlive you. It's so well made. I mean, it really is. It's beautifully put together. It's solid. It shoots wonderfully. I mean, for me to be able to get groups at 35 yards under a 5p piece with a Springer, a break barrel Springer at that, then Walther are definitely doing something right. And as a hunting gun, I know people say it's really heavy, but if you stick a reasonable scope on it, it's not that bad at all. I mean, I lugged this around 3 or 4 miles round my one of my shoots on Saturday, and I'm a small chap, not much bulk to me at all, and I was all right with that. I handled it perfectly well. Now, I must admit, my Springer guns, I do use them for what I call my fun shoots, which are shoots when I'm out for a bit of a laugh, really. Like, you know, in the middle of the day, nice day, feel like a walk in the country or walk around a farm, take the rifle out, maybe even take my terrier along with me just for a laugh. Not especially bothered if I shoot anything. I'll just plink, if there's nothing about, I'll plink away, shoot some targets, whatever, just have a bit of fun with it. And that's what I use my Springers for, really. If I want to do, if I'm desperate to get some rabbits for the pot or for my ferrets or whatever, or for the dogs, then I'll take one of my pre-charged pneumatics, one of my Steyrs, and go either very late in the evening or very early in the morning, when the really expensive scopes I've got on them enable me to make the most of the light. This and my Pro Sport are what I call sort of fun rifles. That's not to say that they don't knock over a fair bit of game. Like I say, this is, I've had it 3 days and I've shot 7 rabbits with it already. So, you know, it's a hunting gun. It is a hunting gun. It's a nice gun. It's top quality and it's a nice gun, but I like the Springers to be a bit of fun. It's a bit of old school. It's a bit of a throwback to my youth, I suppose, in many ways. And shooting Springers is good as well. It's good practice because it gets you into, you know, it improves your skill levels, I think. It can be too easy sometimes with these all singing, all dancing pre-charged pneumatics. It's sometimes nice to get back to a decent Springer, and I have to say, I think you'd be hard pushed to do much better than this. Now, if you're going to be hypercritical, which I always am, I would say that really they should stick the metal trigger that they offer as an accessory on the rifle from the word go. And I also think that they should have a walnut stock option, because the gun is so, the metalwork, the internals are such high quality that it deserves a really beautiful walnut stock. There's nothing wrong with this beech stock. As beech stocks go, it's quite nice, you know, it's got a reasonable nice grain on it. It's a nice colour. The layout of the stock's really nice. It's high combs, really good. Like I say, this checkering's fantastic, and this flute in here gives a really good grip, and it looks nice. But really, you would think that with such a quality rifle, and it is, I can't stress how nice it is in the flesh when you actually get to hold it at close range. Why has it not got a really nice walnut stock? I don't understand. I really don't. I don't know what they're playing at. It might add a little bit to the price, but from what I'm aware, you can't even get one as, they don't even offer a walnut stock as an extra like Air Arms do. You know, you can get a Pro Sport or a TX with a beech stock, and then the one above that is the walnut stock version. And I really think that Walther are missing out on a trick there, because a nicely figured walnut stock on this would just set it off a treat, because the componentry, the firing mechanism, the quality, the bluing, the engineering in it is beyond reproach. And the stock's really nice. There's nothing wrong with it, but that quality engineering should have a nice walnut stock, in my opinion. So there it is, Walther LGV. Thoroughly recommend it. It's a superb example of a modern break barrel air rifle. And it's as accurate as a PCP in the right hands. You do your bit, these guns will reward you. Thanks for watching, subscribe, watch out for more videos. Thank you.